Welcome. We're going to run through the Nintex Workflow Cloud Employee Onboarding solution. This is up on the gallery.nintex.com in some way, shape or form. I've added a couple bells and whistles, been talking about it quite a lot. This is also the solution that we build in our process excellence in a day. It doesn't have to be employee onboarding, obviously it could be partners, vendors, customers, but this scenario is kind of cookie cutter. So we'll take a look at the Nintex solution. I'm going to start with a form. This is a desktop form. Form could live on the mobile device as well. So we have pushed that one out to Nintex Mobile. I'm going to use Nintex Mobile on this to do some task approval. And we're going to complete some details. So let's just fill in my new user information. I've got a text mask on there. You'll see that it was forming the mobile number layout. If I try and leave the email control, it's going to recognize that that's not a valid control. So I've got a bit of validation in there as well. And this is an external email address. But the nice thing is we're still going to be able to perform a task on that particular email account. I'll just upload a random image from my downloads folder, and we'll go to my next page. My position, department, and office are all data source lookups to SharePoint Online information. So I've got a list of positions, I've got a list of departments. I've set a rule there that if it was the director that's selected, it is going to be the executive that's populated, and we'll go with Melbourne and select a start date. Now anything is grayed out is historical. That's a rule that we can set on that control. So we'll project to May the 18th. Got a placeholder for a specific salary control and my hiring manager email. This is the person that's going to receive all the notifications as that onboarding progresses. Do I wish to submit some hardware requests? I should probably give them a mobile phone and a laptop in this instance. And my final page is my declaration. So we're just going to sign on glass here and submit. My workflow has begun, and the first thing that's going to happen is that we're going to submit a line item into a new users list up on SharePoint Online. So that instance has been added to SharePoint Online from that cloud form, and that was my first action. What that does is it returns a unique ID and a URL for the new user back to Workflow so that I can send that in my next stage. I've alerted the hiring manager that their new user has been on board, process has begun. And if I want to view the item, I can find it here. So there's my SharePoint instance item. Now the next part of this is to go beyond the domain. I'm moving outside of my NTXT-EO2, my demo environment. I'm going to ask that new user if the information that we have about them is relevant and correct. Please confirm your details. Let's complete this task form. This means I can add tasks for people outside my organization. Partners, vendors, customers, members of the public, and so on. Now if everything is correct, then we can mark that as yes. Otherwise, we can correct the information and submit the task. Excellent. So that task has been completed by the external user. We're now coming back into Workflow to go through some lines of business to approve. And the first thing that we should see is a task for human resources. This is the first of several ways to respond to tasks within Nintex. What we're doing here is loading up the notification with all the information that human resources require to make a decision, and they can use express approval to reply with a keyword. In this instance, it's approve, reject, but these are tailorable to whatever your organization requires. So the next task that's been delivered is for payroll. Now I could open up the payroll form and complete this on the desktop, but what I do want to do is move this to the Nintex mobile app. This app has been built using Nintex App Studio and has been branded for the Crisco application. From here, you'll see I can upload my forms. I'm able to view documents such as my e-policy, or I can respond to the task. So here I've got my payroll new user for Joe Blogs. Let's open that up. It's a branded form. I've got all the information that I need. If I reject, I'm going to ask them for some more comments. But in this instance, I've just got to approve and move the process forward. So up next is document generation. Now that my lines of business have approved both tasks, that's going to move my process through to generate a document from a standard template. Once that document has been created, we're going to send that to my new user through Nintex Sign powered by Adobe Sign. So in just a second, we should see that come through. So there's my email, signature is requested on your contract. Let's review and sign. So if we take a look at the document, you'll see that it has now been merged with Joe's unique information. The information that we had on the form has now been generated into this custom document with the information about his job role, when he starts, who he reports to, and so on. But what we're most interested in is a signature. Joe can type, Joe can draw, but really the most important thing is that he's approving the sign of the document. Okay, now Joe has signed that document. It's coming back into our OneDrive repository, and we're going to move on with the rest of the workflow. We're going to start to look at how Joe's account is provisioned. At the same time, we're going to do some communication through Microsoft Teams and also back to Joe through email. Joe has received a signed copy of that document for his own records, and the hiring manager has been told that Joe has signed that form and where it has been returned to, in this instance, a OneDrive signed folder. If we take a look at Microsoft Teams, we've posted a channel welcoming Joe aboard as the director in our Melbourne office, and we've also sent Joe his first day details, username and password, and we've sent those out through SMS using the Twilio SMS service as well. Take a look at Azure Active Directory here at Joe's new profile that's been created by the workflow as well. And finally, we are going to kick off the DoorPass task, which is going to run an RPA bot to populate a spreadsheet on premises. So let's complete that form for Joe's DoorPass. We issue Joe a pass, take a look at the pass number and punch that in. That task has been completed successfully, and in just a second my RPA bot should kick off. It's going to open that workbook, which is storing all my door card and door passes, and it's going to perform the required task. So there's Joe's DoorPass, which has been added to the DoorPass system that was passed down from that task. And that's our onboarding solution.